Have you ever noticed that two people of the same age can seem to be aging at completely different rates? One remains steady on their feet, active, and independent well into their later years, while the other gradually slows down, becoming more cautious with each step, eventually needing help with things that were once effortless. We tend to attribute this to genetics or luck, as if the body's trajectory were decided at birth. But what if the real difference has less to do with the cards we were dealt and more to do with something far more subtle, something happening beneath the surface, invisible to the eye, yet accumulating with each passing year? There is a hidden architecture to the way we age, a set of internal processes that either preserve our strength or quietly allow it to slip away. And most of us are unaware of which direction we are headed until the difference becomes impossible to ignore. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The unseen architecture of strength. How the body preserves or loses its foundation after 50. There is a question that lingers quietly in the minds of many people as the years accumulate. It is not always spoken aloud, but it surfaces in small moments, when climbing a flight of stairs leaves one slightly more breathless than before, when carrying groceries from the car requires a bit more effort, when getting up from a low chair demands a brief moment of preparation that was not necessary a decade earlier. The question is simple. Is this just what getting older feels like? For generations, the gradual softening of the body has been accepted as an inevitability, a natural consequence of passing time. And in some ways, it is. The human body, like any complex system, changes with use and with age. But researchers who study the process of aging have come to understand something that challenges the simple assumption of inevitability. The rate at which the body loses its strength and resilience is not fixed. It is not programmed into the cells like a countdown clock. Instead, it is deeply influenced by a lifetime of choices, patterns, and exposures that shape how the body responds to the passing decades. This distinction matters because it changes the story we tell ourselves about aging. If decline were purely a matter of calendar years, there would be little to do but accept it. But if decline is influenced by factors within our control, then the story becomes one of possibility rather than resignation. The goal is not to stop time or to reverse it, but to understand how the body's natural processes can be supported so that the later decades of life are lived with strength, mobility, and independence. The changing terrain of the aging body. To understand why muscle becomes harder to maintain after 50, it helps to consider what happens inside the body at a fundamental level. Every movement we make, from the smallest gesture to the most strenuous effort, relies on the intricate machinery of muscle tissue. This tissue is not static. It is constantly being broken down and rebuilt in a cycle of renewal that continues throughout life. In youth, the rebuilding phase easily keeps pace with the breakdown. The body is efficient at repairing the microscopic damage that occurs during daily activity, and it responds quickly to the signals that call for growth and strengthening. Around the age of 50, however, this balance begins to shift. The rebuilding process slows. The signals that tell the body to repair and strengthen become quieter. The cells responsible for muscle regeneration become less responsive. This gradual change is influenced by multiple factors that work together in ways researchers are still working to understand. Hormones play a significant role. The body's production of certain compounds that support muscle maintenance declines with age. Testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin-like growth factor all follow a gradual downward trajectory beginning in midlife. These substances act as messengers, carrying instructions to muscle cells about when to repair, when to grow, and when to conserve energy. When their levels decrease, the instructions become fainter, and the muscle tissue responds by slowing its renewal efforts. The nervous system changes as well. The connections between nerves and muscles, known as neuromuscular junctions, become less efficient over time. The brain's signals to the muscles arrive with slightly less force, activating fewer muscle fibers with each command. This means that even when a person intends to move with full effort, the muscles do not respond as completely as they once did. The energy factories within cells, called mitochondria, also show signs of aging. These tiny structures are responsible for converting nutrients into the energy that powers every cellular function. In muscle tissue, which has high energy demands, healthy mitochondria are essential for repair and recovery. As mitochondria age, they produce less energy and generate more waste products that can damage the cells they are meant to serve. These changes are natural. They happen to everyone. But their progression is not uniform. The rate at which these systems decline is influenced by a wide range of factors, many of which have to do with how the body is nourished, how it is moved, and what kinds of stresses it is asked to manage. The quality of fuel and the body's response. One of the most important factors in how the body ages is the quality of the materials it receives to carry out its maintenance work. Every cell in the body relies on a steady supply of nutrients to perform its functions, repair damage, and communicate with other cells. When those nutrients come from sources that also carry compounds the body must work to neutralize, the maintenance work becomes more complicated. This is where the distinction between different types of food becomes significant. Not all sources of protein, for example, deliver the same results to muscle tissue. While protein is essential for muscle repair, the form in which it arrives matters a great deal. When protein comes from sources that have been significantly altered from their natural state, the body's ability to use that protein efficiently may be compromised. Consider what happens when food is processed. The original structure of the protein molecules can be changed by high heat, by grinding, by the addition of preservatives, and by chemical treatments designed to extend shelf life or enhance flavor. These changes can affect the availability of specific amino acids that are particularly important for signaling muscle repair. Leucine, for example, is an amino acid that acts as a trigger for the muscle-building process. When leucine is present in adequate amounts, the body receives a clear signal to begin repair work. When it is lacking, that signal is weaker, and the repair process may not fully engage. The problem is not simply that processed foods contain fewer beneficial compounds. It is also that they often contain substances that create additional work for the body. Preservatives, colorings, and flavor enhancers must be processed and eliminated. High levels of sodium can affect the fluid balance within cells, making it harder for nutrients to enter and waste products to leave. Certain additives, when broken down during digestion, can form compounds that are known to cause stress at the cellular level. This stress, often called oxidative stress, occurs when the body produces more free radicals than it can neutralize. Free radicals are unstable molecules that can damage cell membranes, proteins, and even DNA. They are a normal byproduct of metabolism, and the body has systems in place to manage them. But when the load becomes too heavy, the balance tips, and damage accumulates faster than the body can repair it. Muscle tissue, with its high metabolic activity and constant turnover, is particularly vulnerable to this kind of stress. When cells are struggling with oxidative damage, they have less energy available for repair and renewal. The result is a gradual slowing of the maintenance work that keeps muscles strong and responsive. The silent influence of inflammation. Another factor that affects how the body ages is the level of inflammation it carries. Inflammation is often thought of as the body's response to injury or infection, the redness and swelling that accompany a cut or a sprain. But there is another kind of inflammation that operates at a much lower level, without obvious symptoms, yet with profound effects over time. This chronic, low-grade inflammation is different from the acute inflammation that signals healing. It does not cause pain or visible swelling. Instead, it creates a background hum of immune activity that gradually wears down tissues and organs. Researchers have found that elevated markers of inflammation are common in older adults and are associated with faster decline in muscle mass and strength. The sources of this inflammation are varied. Some come from within the body, as aging cells themselves begin to send out inflammatory signals. Some come from the environment, from pollutants and other external factors. And some come from diet, from foods that trigger or amplify the body's inflammatory responses. Certain foods are known to promote inflammation. These tend to be foods that are highly processed, that contain certain types of fats, or that are cooked at very high temperatures in ways that create inflammatory compounds. When these foods make up a significant portion of the diet, they contribute to the background inflammation that makes it harder for the body to maintain its tissues. The connection to muscle health is direct. Inflammation interferes with the signals that tell the body to build and repair muscle. It also increases the activity of systems that break down muscle tissue. When inflammation is high, the body shifts into a state that favors breakdown over building, and muscle mass gradually declines. This is not an all-or-nothing process. A single meal does not determine the course of muscle health, but over months and years, the cumulative effect of a diet that promotes inflammation can be substantial. The body's maintenance systems become overwhelmed, and the gradual loss of muscle accelerates. The role of insulin in muscle maintenance. Insulin is another factor that connects diet to muscle health in ways that are often overlooked. Most people think of insulin only in relation to blood sugar and diabetes. But insulin has other functions that are just as important for maintaining strength and mobility. One of insulin's roles is to act as a gatekeeper for cells. It helps open the pathways that allow nutrients, including amino acids, to enter muscle tissue. When insulin is working properly, muscles receive the building blocks they need for repair after activity. When insulin signaling becomes less efficient, those building blocks have a harder time reaching their destination. This condition, known as insulin resistance, becomes more common with age. Cells become less responsive to insulin signals, and the body must produce more of the hormone to achieve the same effect. This creates a cycle in which insulin levels rise while nutrient delivery to muscles becomes less reliable. Diet plays a significant role in whether insulin sensitivity declines quickly or slowly. Foods that cause rapid spikes in blood sugar, followed by sharp drops, put more stress on the insulin system. Over time, this repeated pattern can lead to the blunting of insulin's effectiveness. Foods that are processed, that lack fiber, and that contain certain types of fats are more likely to contribute to this pattern. The connection to muscle health is clear. When insulin signaling is compromised, muscles receive fewer of the amino acids they need for repair. Even if protein intake is adequate on paper, the muscles may not be getting the full benefit. The result is a slower repair process and a gradual decline in strength. The digestive system as a gatekeeper. Another factor that influences how well the body maintains muscle is the health of the digestive system. The journey of nutrients from the plate to the muscle cell is long and complex. Along the way, food must be broken down, absorbed through the intestinal wall, transported through the bloodstream, and taken up by the cells that need it. At each step, there is potential for inefficiency. With age, the digestive system undergoes changes that can affect this process. The stomach produces less acid, which can make it harder to break down proteins into their component amino acids. The intestines may become less efficient at absorbing nutrients. The balance of bacteria in the gut can shift in ways that affect inflammation and nutrient availability. These changes mean that older adults may need to pay more attention not just to what they eat, but to how well their bodies can use what they consume. Foods that are easy to digest, that come with their own enzymes, and that support a healthy gut environment may be more effective at delivering nutrients to the tissues that need them. The gut bacteria themselves play a role that researchers are only beginning to understand. The trillions of microorganisms that live in the digestive tract help break down food, produce certain vitamins, and regulate inflammation. When the gut microbiome is healthy and diverse, it supports the body's maintenance systems. When it is depleted or imbalanced, it can contribute to the low-grade inflammation that undermines muscle health. Diet has a powerful influence on the gut microbiome. Fiber-rich foods, fermented foods, and a wide variety of plant foods support microbial diversity. Highly processed foods, on the other hand, tend to feed a less diverse and potentially more inflammatory set of microorganisms. Over time, this can affect not just digestion, but the entire body's inflammatory state. The wisdom of traditional eating patterns. When researchers look at populations around the world where people consistently live long, healthy lives, they often find that traditional eating patterns share certain characteristics. These patterns did not emerge from laboratory research or nutritional science. They developed over generations, shaped by what was available locally and what sustained health over a lifetime. One common feature of these traditional patterns is that they emphasize whole foods in their natural state. Grains are eaten whole rather than refined. Vegetables and fruits are fresh or fermented rather than canned with preservatives. Protein comes from sources that are minimally processed: fish, poultry, eggs, legumes, rather than from products that have been transformed through industrial processes. Another feature is balance. Traditional diets rarely emphasize any single nutrient to the exclusion of others. Instead, they combine foods in ways that naturally complement each other. A meal might include a small amount of animal protein alongside a variety of vegetables, perhaps with a grain and a source of healthy fat. This combination provides not just protein, but also the vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that help the body use that protein effectively. The methods of preparation in traditional diets are also notable. Slow cooking, fermentation, and gentle heating are common. These methods tend to preserve nutrients and avoid the creation of compounds that can form when foods are exposed to very high heat. The result is food that nourishes without adding to the body's burden of oxidative stress. These observations from traditional diets align with what researchers have learned about the factors that support healthy aging. Whole foods provide nutrients in forms that the body recognizes and can use efficiently. The balance of different food types ensures that no single nutrient is oversupplied while others are lacking. Gentle preparation methods preserve the natural qualities of the food while making it easier to digest. Movement as a signal for maintenance. Nutrition is only one part of the equation. The other essential factor in maintaining muscle is movement. Muscles exist to create movement, and they respond to the demands placed upon them. When movement is regular and varied, muscles receive signals that they are needed and must be maintained. When movement declines, those signals fade, and the body begins to reduce the resources allocated to muscle tissue. This is not a matter of conscious choice. The body operates on principles of efficiency. Tissues that are used regularly are maintained. Tissues that are not used are gradually allowed to atrophy. This is why bed rest leads to rapid muscle loss, and why astronauts who spend time in weightlessness must exercise rigorously to prevent their muscles from wasting away. For older adults, the challenge is that daily life often provides less stimulation to muscles than it once did. Careers that required physical activity give way to more sedentary pursuits. Hobbies that involved movement may become less accessible. Even routine tasks like carrying groceries or climbing stairs may be reduced as accommodations are made for comfort and convenience. The result is a gradual reduction in the signals that tell the body to maintain muscle. Without those signals, the natural decline in muscle mass accelerates. The body interprets the lack of demand as a sign that muscle tissue is not needed and begins to reallocate resources elsewhere. The solution is not necessarily intense exercise or gym memberships, though those can be helpful. The more important factor is consistent, varied movement throughout the day. Walking, gardening, climbing stairs, carrying objects, stretching, balancing. These everyday activities provide the signals that tell the body to keep its muscles ready for use. The quality of movement matters as well. Movements that challenge balance, that require coordination, and that engage multiple muscle groups at once send stronger signals than movements that are repetitive and limited. This is why activities like dancing, tai chi, and hiking on uneven terrain are particularly valuable for maintaining muscle function, as well as the neural connections that coordinate movement. The interaction between movement and nutrition. Nutrition and movement do not operate independently. They work together in ways that amplify or diminish each other's effects. When both are aligned in support of muscle maintenance, the body responds more effectively than when only one factor is addressed. Consider what happens after physical activity. Movement creates microscopic damage in muscle fibers. This is normal and expected. In response, the body increases blood flow to the area and activates the systems responsible for repair. Amino acids are delivered to the muscle cells, where they are assembled into new proteins that strengthen the tissue. This repair process is what leads to gains in strength and endurance over time. For this process to work efficiently, two things are needed. First, the body must receive the signal that repair is needed. This comes from movement. Second, the body must have the raw materials to carry out that repair. This comes from nutrition. If either is lacking, the process slows down. This is why the timing of nutrition relative to activity can matter. When protein and other nutrients are available in the hours after movement, the repair process has what it needs. When meals are delayed or when the nutrients available are not in forms the body can use easily, repair may be incomplete. The quality of the nutrients matters as much as their timing. Amino acids must be present in the right proportions for efficient repair. Leucine, as mentioned earlier, is particularly important as a signal to start the process. Other nutrients, including certain fats and micronutrients, support the cellular machinery that carries out the repair work. This interaction between movement and nutrition becomes more important with age because the body's repair systems become less efficient. The signals from movement may need to be stronger or more consistent to achieve the same response. The nutrients may need to be more bioavailable to be used effectively. Small advantages in either area can accumulate into significant differences over time. The protective role of plant compounds. Another factor that supports muscle maintenance is the presence of certain compounds found primarily in plants. These compounds, often called phytonutrients, are not essential in the same way that vitamins and minerals are essential, but they appear to play important roles in protecting cells from damage and supporting the body's maintenance systems. Many of these compounds have antioxidant properties. They help neutralize the free radicals that can damage cell components, including the membranes and DNA of muscle cells. By reducing this background damage, they free up cellular resources for repair and renewal rather than defense. Some phytonutrients also have anti-inflammatory effects. They can dampen the inflammatory signals that contribute to muscle breakdown and interfere with repair. This does not mean they block inflammation entirely. That would be counterproductive, since inflammation is part of the healing process. But they help keep inflammation in balance, preventing it from becoming chronic and excessive. The variety of these compounds is vast, and researchers are still working to understand how they interact. What is clear is that a diet rich in a wide range of plant foods provides a diversity of these protective compounds. Fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, legumes, and whole grains each contribute different phytonutrients. Eating a varied diet ensures exposure to many of them. This is another area where traditional eating patterns align with scientific understanding. Traditional diets around the world typically include a wide variety of plant foods, often in combinations that have been refined over generations. The herbs and spices used in cooking are not just for flavor. They are sources of compounds that support health in subtle but significant ways. The influence of stress and recovery. The body's ability to maintain muscle is also affected by the overall balance between stress and recovery. Stress, in this context, refers not just to emotional stress, but to any demand that the body must respond to. Physical activity is a form of stress. So is exposure to heat or cold. So is the work of digesting food, fighting infection, or dealing with pollutants in the air and water. All of these demands require energy and resources. When they are moderate and balanced with periods of recovery, the body adapts and becomes stronger. When they are excessive or continuous, the body's resources become depleted, and maintenance tasks like muscle repair may be neglected. Sleep is perhaps the most important period of recovery. During sleep, the body carries out much of its repair work. Hormones that support muscle maintenance are released. Cellular cleanup processes are activated. The brain processes the experiences of the day and consolidates learning. Without adequate sleep, all of these functions are impaired. For older adults, sleep often becomes more fragmented and less restorative. This is another factor that can contribute to accelerated muscle loss. The body simply has less time and fewer resources to devote to repair. Supporting good sleep through consistent schedules, appropriate light exposure, and a calm evening routine becomes an important part of maintaining strength. Rest between periods of activity is also important. Muscles do not grow during exercise. They grow during the recovery that follows. When activity is too frequent or too intense without adequate rest, the repair process cannot keep up, and breakdown may outpace building. This is why sensible exercise programs include rest days and vary the intensity of activity. The social dimension of strength. There is another factor in muscle maintenance that is easy to overlook because it operates at a different level than cells and nutrients. This is the social dimension, the way that relationships, purpose, and connection influence how the body ages. Research has consistently found that people with strong social connections tend to live longer, healthier lives. They have lower levels of inflammation, better immune function, and slower rates of cognitive decline. These effects are not small. They are comparable in magnitude to the effects of exercise or not smoking. The mechanisms are complex. Social connection may reduce stress, which in turn reduces the burden of stress hormones on the body. It may provide motivation for healthy behaviors. People who eat together may eat better, and people who exercise with others may stick with it longer. It may simply make life more enjoyable, which has its own physiological effects. For muscle health specifically, social connection matters because it often involves activity, walking with a friend, playing with grandchildren, volunteering, dancing, gardening with a partner. These are all forms of movement that arise naturally from social engagement. They provide the signals that tell the body to maintain muscle, but they do so in the context of pleasure and connection rather than as a chore. Purpose also plays a role. People who feel that their lives have meaning and direction tend to be more active and more engaged with the world. They are more likely to get out of the house, to take on challenges, to keep learning and growing. All of these activities support muscle maintenance indirectly by keeping the body in use. The accumulation of small choices. One of the most important insights from research on aging is that the effects of lifestyle accumulate over time. A single healthy meal does not determine the course of muscle health. A single day of inactivity does not cause significant decline, but the pattern of many meals and many days, repeated over years, gradually shapes the trajectory. This is encouraging because it means that small, consistent choices matter more than occasional dramatic efforts. A person who eats well most of the time, who moves regularly throughout the day, who prioritizes sleep and manages stress, will likely maintain muscle better than someone who does these things only sporadically, even if the occasional efforts are more intense. The challenge is that the effects are not immediately visible. When a person eats a meal that promotes inflammation, they do not feel their muscles weakening. When they sit for hours without moving, they do not notice the gradual reduction in the signals that tell the body to maintain muscle. The changes happen beneath the surface, accumulating until they become noticeable as a loss of strength or stamina. This is why awareness matters. Understanding how the body responds to different inputs allows for informed choices. It is not about perfection or about never eating foods that might be less than optimal. It is about recognizing that each choice contributes to a pattern, and that the pattern over time shapes how the body ages. The concept of reserve. Researchers sometimes use the term reserve to describe the body's capacity to withstand challenges. Muscle reserve, in this context, refers to having more muscle mass than the minimum needed for daily activities. This extra serves as a buffer against the losses that can occur during illness, injury, or periods of reduced activity. When a person with good muscle reserve becomes ill and spends a week in bed, they lose some muscle, but they still have enough to recover and return to normal function. When a person with low muscle reserve faces the same illness, the loss may bring them below the threshold needed for independence. Tasks that were once manageable become difficult or impossible. Building reserve takes time. It requires consistent attention to the factors that support muscle maintenance over years and decades. But the payoff is resilience, the ability to bounce back from the challenges that inevitably arise with age. This is one reason why the gradual loss of muscle matters even for people who are not athletes and do not aspire to physical feats. Muscle reserve is not about performance, it is about protection. It is about having enough strength to recover from a fall, to withstand a hospital stay, to continue living independently despite the challenges that come with age. Patterns across populations. When researchers compare different populations around the world, they find striking differences in how people age. In some communities, it is common for people in their 80s and 90s to remain active, walking, gardening, and participating in community life. In others, frailty and dependence are nearly universal among the very old. These differences cannot be explained by genetics alone. When people move from one place to another, their health trajectories shift toward those of their new location. This suggests that environmental and lifestyle factors play powerful roles in shaping how the body ages. Diet is one of the factors that differs across populations. Communities with traditional eating patterns tend to have lower rates of the chronic diseases that are common in industrialized societies. They also tend to maintain muscle and mobility better into old age. Their diets are typically based on whole foods, with minimal processing and a wide variety of plant sources. Activity patterns also differ. In traditional communities, movement is woven into daily life rather than being segregated into exercise sessions. People walk to get where they are going. They lift and carry as part of their work. They squat and bend as they garden or cook. This constant low-level activity provides steady signals for muscle maintenance without the strain of intense exercise. Social structures differ as well. In many traditional communities, Older adults remain integrated into family and community life. They have roles and responsibilities. They interact with people of all ages. They are valued for their experience and wisdom. This social engagement supports the motivation to remain active and capable. These observations from around the world do not provide a simple prescription. It is not possible to transplant the conditions of a traditional village into a modern city. But they do suggest directions for thinking about how to support healthy aging. The principles: whole foods, movement throughout the day, social connection, purpose, are adaptable to many different circumstances. The question of individual variation. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge that individuals vary. Two people can follow similar patterns and end up with different outcomes. Genetics plays a role in how the body responds to diet, how efficiently it repairs muscle, and how quickly it ages. This variation means that there is no single perfect approach that works for everyone. What is optimal for one person may be less effective for another. The goal is not to find the one right way, but to understand the principles and then observe how the body responds. For some people, a particular food may trigger more inflammation than it does for others. For some, a certain type of activity may provide stronger signals for muscle maintenance. Learning to pay attention to these individual responses is part of the process of aging well. This is not about following a prescribed protocol, but about developing a kind of wisdom about one's own body. Over time, with attention and reflection, it becomes possible to sense what supports strength and what undermines it. This awareness is itself a tool for maintaining health. The cumulative nature of change. Changes in muscle mass and strength happen slowly. A person does not wake up one day with significantly less muscle than they had the day before. The loss is gradual, almost imperceptible from one week to the next. This is why it can be easy to ignore until it has progressed to the point of affecting daily life. The same is true of the factors that influence muscle loss. The effects of diet, activity, sleep, and stress accumulate over time. A pattern of eating that promotes inflammation does not cause immediate harm, but over years it contributes to the background conditions that accelerate loss. A pattern of regular movement does not produce immediate gains, but over time it maintains the signals that keep muscle tissue healthy. This gradualness can be discouraging or encouraging, depending on perspective. It is discouraging if one is looking for quick results, but it is encouraging because it means that small, consistent efforts matter. The person who walks daily, who eats well most of the time, who prioritizes sleep and manages stress, is building a foundation that will support them over the long term. The key is consistency. Occasional healthy choices, surrounded by a pattern of less healthy ones, do not add up to much. But a pattern of healthy choices, sustained over years, shapes the trajectory of aging in meaningful ways. The relationship between muscle and metabolism. Muscle tissue is not just for movement. It is also metabolically active, meaning it burns calories even at rest. This has implications for weight management and for overall metabolic health. When muscle mass declines, the body's resting energy expenditure declines with it. This means that the same amount of food that once maintained a stable weight may now lead to gradual weight gain. To maintain weight, either calorie intake must decrease or activity must increase. This is one reason why weight management becomes more challenging with age. The loss of muscle that often accompanies aging reduces the body's energy needs, making it easier to gain fat even without eating more. This can create a cycle in which weight gain leads to less activity, which leads to more muscle loss, which further reduces energy needs. Maintaining muscle, then, is not just about strength. It is also about keeping the metabolic engine running at a level that supports healthy weight and energy balance. This is another reason to pay attention to the factors that support muscle maintenance. The practical expression of principles. Translating these principles into daily life does not require dramatic changes. It is more about orientation than about strict rules. The goal is to create conditions in which the body's natural maintenance systems can operate effectively. In terms of food, this means choosing whole foods more often than processed ones. It means including protein from a variety of sources, with attention to quality. It means eating plenty of plants, in a wide range of colors and types. It means being mindful of how food is prepared, favoring gentle methods over those that create inflammatory compounds. In terms of movement, it means finding ways to be active throughout the day. It means walking, stretching, lifting, balancing, not just in dedicated exercise sessions, but as part of regular life. It means varying activities to challenge different muscle groups and different aspects of coordination. In terms of recovery, it means prioritizing sleep and rest. It means allowing time between periods of activity for the body to repair. It means managing stress through whatever means work, time in nature, connection with others, practices that calm the nervous system. In terms of connection, it means maintaining relationships and staying engaged with the world. It means finding ways to contribute, to learn, to be part of something larger than oneself. These social and purpose-driven activities support health in ways that are difficult to measure but deeply felt. The long view. Aging is not a problem to be solved, but a process to be navigated. The goal is not to stop it or reverse it, but to move through it with as much capacity and vitality as possible. Muscle health is one part of this larger journey, but it is an important part because it affects so much else: mobility, independence, metabolic health, resilience. The factors that influence muscle health are largely the same factors that influence overall health. A diet based on whole foods, regular movement, adequate sleep, stress management, social connection. These support not just muscles, but every system in the body. They create conditions in which the body can do its best work of maintenance and repair. This is not a matter of perfection. No one follows an ideal pattern all the time. Life is full of celebrations, challenges, and circumstances that disrupt routines. The goal is not to be perfect, but to have a general orientation that supports health over the long term. It is about making more choices that support maintenance than choices that undermine it. Most of the time, the evidence from research and from observation of long-lived populations suggests that this approach works. People who eat well, move regularly, stay connected, and manage stress tend to maintain their capacities longer than those who do not. They are more likely to remain independent, to recover from challenges, to continue doing the things that matter to them. This is the quiet promise of paying attention to muscle health. It is not about defying age or achieving some extraordinary level of fitness. It is about preserving the ordinary capacities that make life worth living: the ability to walk, to lift, to play, to work, to engage with the world. These capacities are worth protecting, and the choices that protect them are available to everyone. Every day, the body does not decline because it is programmed to fail. It declines when the conditions for maintenance are not met, when the signals for repair grow faint, and when the cumulative weight of small stresses finally exceeds the capacity to recover. Strength in later years is not a matter of luck or genetics alone. It is the result of thousands of small choices, each one either supporting the architecture of the body or quietly allowing it to erode. The question is not whether we will age, but whether we will age with our capacities intact, able to move through the world with ease and independence. If this reflection has stirred something in you, we would be honored to hear your thoughts in the comments, what you have observed in your own life, what questions remain, what wisdom you would add to this archive. And if you would like to continue this exploration, the library has many more volumes waiting for you. Simply subscribe so that each new chapter finds its way to you. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.